Sue Bird opened the door for the conversation, but it was Clark's raw admission that stole the spotlight. When she spoke about Paige Bueckers, her respect for Bueckers' poise, discipline, and ability to command a game, it wasn't just praise. It was personal. Clark has always been fiercely competitive, but in this interview, she hinted at how admiration can sting when you're still trying to find your own rhythm in a league full of established stars. For a player used to dominating, that shift is more than tactical. It's emotional.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Clark's acknowledgement of being challenged by players like Bueckers and guided by minds like Gino or Rima reflects a new kind of rivalry. One grounded in mutual recognition, but edged with a need to prove. She's not just fighting for wins. She's striving to redefine herself in an environment where every opponent is smarter, stronger, and more experienced. That honesty, paired with her drive to improve her physical game and leadership, signals a player reshaping her identity in real time. This isn't about being the next face of the league. It's about surviving the climb. Caitlin Clark is done staying quiet. After months of noise, debates on social media, headlines stretching her every move into controversy, and endless speculation about her future, she finally sat down and said what needed to be said. Not through a statement, not through a tweet, but in a raw, face-to-face interview with two women who helped build the very league she now plays in, Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. And what came out of that conversation wasn't some polished PR piece. It was a real, vulnerable, and honest reflection from a 22-year-old who's carrying more pressure than most athletes will feel in their entire careers. Caitlin Clark broke her silence, and what she shared wasn't scandalous. It was serious. She talked about the jump from college to the WNBA, not just the physical part, but the mental side too. The systems are faster. The defense is tighter. The room for error? Practically non-existent. In college, she was the system. At Iowa, the ball ran through her and the game bent to her style. In the pros, she's had to unlearn and relearn at lightning speed, all while millions of eyes watched her every move. And yet, through it all, she didn't flinch. She talked about that transition with total clarity, not sugarcoating it, not trying to spin it into something easier than it is. She admitted she's been pushed in new ways, forced to elevate every part of her game, from reading defenses to executing under pressure. And that honesty? That's not weakness. That's strength. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for, her take on Diana Taurasi's viral quote. The one that lit the internet on fire. Reality is coming. Some took it as a jab. Others saw it as tough love. But when Clark addressed it, there was no drama, no defensiveness, just understanding. She didn't take it personally. She respected it. And that mutual respect, it's real. When Taurasi talked about playing against Clark for the first time, she didn't roll her eyes. She didn't act superior. She called it a historic moment, a symbol of a generational shift, a handoff, not a talent, but a momentum, one era meeting the next, and doing it under the bright lights with packed arenas and all eyes on them. Clark didn't shy away from that pressure. She stepped into it, but she didn't pretend like she had it all figured out either. She opened up about her own growth, about learning to finish through contact, building a stronger mid-range game, and expanding her arsenal. The weight room, the gym sessions, the film study, it's not hype, it's habit. She's not chasing approval. She's chasing evolution. She also made it clear that she sees greatness in the players around her. Her praise for Paige Bueckers wasn't surface level. It was about precision, about discipline, about a level of control and poise that's earned, not gifted. She didn't compare. She didn't compete. She respected. Because Clark understands something a lot of players miss. It's not about being the best on the floor. It's about becoming the most complete. And it's that mindset that makes her stand out. She spoke with total clarity about how much she's had to adjust. The defenses in the WNBA don't give you an inch. The scouting is intense. The game is fast, physical, and unrelenting. But instead of being overwhelmed, she's taking notes. Literally, she's studying opponents. She's paying attention to how veteran players manipulate space and control tempo. She mentioned Gino Orima, not just as a coaching legend, but as a strategic mastermind. The way he prepares his teams, the discipline, the execution, she sees it. She respects it, and she wants to learn from it. That's what makes Caitlin Clark different. She's not playing the victim, and she's not pretending the game owes her anything. She's here to grow, and she's proving it with every adjustment, every breakdown, every new skill she adds. She also talked about leadership in a way that most rookies don't. Her team didn't start last season strong. There were losses. There were chemistry issues. But instead of pointing fingers, she pointed to the locker room. She talked about accountability, about how things turned around when players stepped up, leaned in, and decided to trust each other. That kind of self-awareness, that's not typical for someone her age. Clark's not just focused on scoring anymore. She's focused on cohesion. She knows that no one wins in this league alone. It takes depth. It takes experience. It takes voices who've been there. And this year, she's got that. Her team added veterans, real playoff-tested, battle-worn leaders who know how to manage pressure and make plays when it matters most. And the way Clark talks about that support, it's clear she gets it. She's not trying to be the star of every play. She's trying to be the glue that holds a winning team together. And while all of that is happening on the court, the noise off the court hasn't slowed down. She's been under a microscope since day one. Her name trends every time she takes a shot, whether it goes in or not. People argue over whether she deserves the attention, whether she's been humbled, whether the hype was justified. And through all that, she's never snapped back. Not once. She hears the chatter. She knows the pressure. But she doesn't run from it. She just gets quieter, more focused, more locked in. She's not trying to prove people wrong. She's trying to prove herself right. That's the difference. She's not obsessed with headlines or narrative. She's obsessed with improvement. She's thinking about the next game, the next adjustment, the next skill she can add. And when she talks about the season ahead, there's no cockiness, just confidence. She believes in the roster. She believes in the process. And she believes in the work. And that's why people should be paying attention. Because while the discourse spins and the talking heads debate whether she's living up to expectations, Clark is in the gym, lifting heavier, shooting longer, watching more tape. She's building something, not a brand, an actual basketball career, rooted in fundamentals, strategy, and relentless effort. Her interview with Bird and Taurasi wasn't a moment of defense. It was a moment of clarity, a signal that she understands the weight of what she's carrying, and she's choosing to carry it anyway. That's not just maturity. That's leadership. She talked about being excited for the upcoming season, not because it's a fresh start, but because it's a chance to show the work she's been putting in, to show that the early challenges didn't define her, they refined her. That's the version of Caitlin Clark people need to see. Not just the scorer, not just the headline, but the athlete, the leader, the thinker, the teammate. She's not here to be perfect. She's here to evolve, and she's doing it in real time. So when people say Caitlin Clark broke her silence, what they're really seeing is the start of a new chapter, one where she's fully in control of her voice, her game, and her path. She's not here to be handed the torch. She's here to earn it, carry it, and pass it down even stronger than she found it. Because this isn't just about one player's rise. This is about what women's basketball is becoming. Faster, smarter, deeper, and more competitive than ever. Clark isn't the future because someone said so. She's the future because she's showing up every day, embracing the grind, and refusing to settle for hype over substance. She's not chasing legacy. She's building one. What did you think of her interview? Has Caitlin Clark proved the doubters wrong? Or is this just the beginning of a much bigger story? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns of the biggest moments, the real drama, and after an entire season of being talked about, she's decided it's time people start hearing directly from her. For months, she's watched as everyone tried to define her. The media turned every move into a debate. Fans turned her highlights into battlegrounds. Critics labeled her everything from a savior to a sellout. But through all the noise, Caitlin Clark stayed quiet until now. And when she finally spoke, she didn't rant. She didn't deflect. She didn't spin anything. She told the truth. She laid it out plainly. Transitioning into the WNBA is hard. The league is fast, physical, tactical. Everyone is strong. Everyone is smart. There's no time to breathe. Every possession counts. And you know what? She loves that. She didn't sugarcoat it, didn't hide behind excuses. She admitted it was an adjustment, and then doubled down on how determined she is to rise to that level. That's what you want to see in a player who's being positioned as the future of the league. Not just talent, but transparency. Not just confidence, but humility. That's what she brought to the table during that sit-down with Bird and Taurasi. And speaking of Taurasi, everyone expected tension between her and Clark. After all, that reality is coming quote had people acting like they were about to throw elbows mid-interview. But when they finally sat down together, it wasn't icy. It wasn't competitive. It was real. Taurasi didn't walk in with ego. She walked in with history. She's been in Clark's shoes, minus the social media circus, of course. She knows what it's like to carry a league, to feel that weight, to have every win dissected and every loss blown out of proportion. So when she talked about that first game against Clark being a cultural moment, she meant it. It wasn't just about basketball. It was about legacy, the past meeting the future, and not in a symbolic, jersey-swapping way. In a real, gritty, emotional, this is the new era kind of way. And Clark recognized that, too. She wasn't there to prove anything to Taurasi. She was there to listen, to learn, to absorb, because that's what competitors do. They take what's useful, and they use it to level up. She didn't try to dominate the conversation. She let the moment breathe. She spoke with respect. She acknowledged what Taurasi has built, and in the same breath, made it clear that she's coming for greatness, not out of ego, but out of hunger. And you could see how deeply she studies the game. When she praised Paige Buchers and Gino Orima, she didn't just throw compliments. She broke it down, talked about discipline, game planning, strategy. She watches how great players move, how they react, how they stay calm under pressure. And then she goes back to the gym and applies it. That's not just fandom. That's film study. And it's clear she's been putting that film to use. Her focus on refining her mid-range jumper? That's not flashy, but it's necessary. Her drive to finish through contact? That's the kind of skill that separates stars from superstars. It's gritty. It's physical. It's not something you can fake. And the best part? She's not working on these things because someone told her to. She's doing it because she knows they matter. That's what this entire interview revealed. Caitlin Clark doesn't want to be famous. She wants to be great. Fame happened by accident. She broke records. She filled arenas. She became a name that even casual sports fans recognized. But greatness? That's the part she's choosing. That's the part that takes early mornings, quiet focus, and relentless self-reflection. She's not trying to live off the hype. She's trying to outgrow it. That's why her reflections on last season were so honest. She didn't sugarcoat the losses. She didn't try to blame it on lack of chemistry or tough matchups. She acknowledged the start was rough. She admitted things weren't clicking. And then she credited her team for pulling together, building trust, and shifting momentum. And let's not ignore how rare that is. Most rookies are still finding their place in the locker room. Clark? She's already thinking about leadership, about culture, about what it takes to build something that lasts. When she talked about her new teammates, seasoned vets with playoff experience, she wasn't just excited to play next to them. She was excited to learn from them. That's the mindset that separates players who flame out early from those who leave a legacy. She knows that chemistry doesn't happen by accident. It's built, day by day, practice by practice, conversation by conversation. And she's not just hoping that happens. She's actively creating it. So when people say Caitlin Clark broke her silence, what they really mean is she set the record straight. She's not here to save anyone. She's not here to carry a league on her back. She's here to compete, to lead, to grow, and most importantly, to win. She's clear on what she needs to work on, clear on what she brings to the table, clear on what kind of teammate she wants to be. And when you combine that clarity with her natural ability, her competitive fire, and her willingness to learn from the best, that's dangerous for everyone. Because Clark isn't just a shooter. She's a thinker, a builder, a long game kind of player. And now that she's had a taste of the league, now that she's learned from her early battles, She's stepping into this next season sharper, tougher, and more prepared than ever. She's not coming to adjust anymore. She's coming to dominate. Not through ego, but through execution. Not through talk, but through timing. Not through hype, but through hard-won skill. This is the version of Caitlin Clark that doesn't flinch when the lights are bright, doesn't rattle when the game is tight, and doesn't shrink when a moment is too big. Because now, she knows exactly who she is and exactly what she's capable of. And if you think the league was loud before, wait until she hits her stride. No matter how you feel about Caitlin Clark, you can't deny what just happened in that interview. This wasn't a carefully curated redemption tour. This was Clark pulling back the curtain, letting everyone in on the truth of what it's really like to walk into the WNBA with a target on your back. Not because of anything she said, not because of any beef she created, but because of expectations, the kind of expectations that would eat most rookies alive. And yet, she's still here, standing tall, owning her place. What makes it all so surreal is that she never asked for the crown. She didn't declare herself the face of the league. That was given to her the second she went viral in college, the second her name became shorthand for next big thing in women's basketball. And with that came the backlash. People either wanted her to succeed wildly or fall hard. No in between. But when she sat down with Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi, two legends who've built this league with their own hands and sweat and bruises, you could feel the tone shift. Because it wasn't just about passing the torch. It was about forging connection across generations. And in that conversation, Clark wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for every young player walking into the league with big shoes to fill and zero margin for error. She acknowledged the gap between college and pro, not just the speed or the physicality. That's the obvious stuff. She talked about the details, the mental load, the schemes, the way defenders know your moves before you make them. She admitted she had to slow down mentally while everything sped up around her. That's real. That's honest. That's not something you say unless you're secure enough in yourself to admit you're still figuring it out. But here's where it gets even more powerful. She's not just identifying her challenges, she's attacking them. Mid-range game? She's drilling it. Finishing through contact? She's putting on muscle. Understanding elite defenses? She's watching tape, tracking reads, absorbing playbooks. You can see it in how she talks now. Every sentence has intention. She's not trying to prove a point. She's trying to get better. And when she talks about the players she admires, like Paige Bueckers, it's not fluff. She doesn't throw out compliments to be liked. She names specifics. Poise, composure, tactical control. It's clear she studies her peers, not just for competition, but for wisdom. Because in her mind, everyone has something to teach you, if you're humble enough to pay attention. That's what she's doing with Gino Arima too. She didn't just name drop him because he's a big name in the sport. She praised his discipline, the way his teams execute, the way they think the game. That kind of strategic praise tells you everything. Clark doesn't just want to play hard. She wants to play smart. She's developing a game that isn't just built on highlights. It's built on structure. And speaking of structure, the way she talked about her own team was something every fan should be paying attention to. Last season, it was rough. There's no way around it. They stumbled early. There was doubt, there was pressure, and there were way too many conversations about whether she was ready or if she was the problem. But she didn't run from that. In fact, she owned it. She explained how the team had to dig deep, not just run more plays or hit more shots, but build trust, fix the chemistry, and redefine their identity together. She didn't throw anyone under the bus. She didn't say she fixed it. She said we. That's leadership. And now, with the addition of experienced veterans, she's fired up. Not because she expects them to carry her, but because she's ready to learn from them. She knows what playoff experience brings to a locker room. She knows how important it is to have players who've been through the fire. That kind of wisdom can't be taught in practice. It's lived. And Clark? She's smart enough to lean into that. She wants to be coached. She wants to be held accountable. And she wants to be part of something that actually wins, not just headlines, but games. And yet, for everything she said, there are still people waiting for her to fail. Still voices online that act like one bad shooting night undoes everything she's done. like growth is supposed to be instant. But what they're missing, what this interview made crystal clear, is that Caitlin Clark is playing the long game. She's not chasing clout. She's building a foundation. Because talent will get you noticed. But discipline, that's what keeps you in the league. And Clark is both. That's why the conversation with Sue and Diana hit differently. You could tell they weren't talking to just another rookie. They were talking to someone who's going to be in this league for a long time. Someone who's already asking the right questions. Someone who's not afraid to admit what she doesn't know and isn't too proud to learn. That level of self-awareness, that's dangerous. Because once a player figures out how to combine elite skills with elite mindset, it's over. You could feel that in how she spoke about next season. There was no "we'll see how it goes." There was focus, precision. She knows the team has the pieces now. She knows the roster is deeper. And she knows this is the moment to shift from figuring it out to executing. She's not the wide-eyed rookie anymore. She's not the college phenom trying to adapt. She's something new now, something tougher, sharper, and more intentional. And the league should be paying attention. Because when Caitlin Clark gets locked in, it's not just about her scoring. It's about her presence, her leadership, her ability to read the court and command it. That's the part of her game that's growing the fastest. Not the flashy deep threes, but the quiet, strategic control. The parts of the game you can't teach. The instincts you only develop through adversity. And make no mistake, she's had her share of adversity. Not just on the court, but off of it too. The media storms, the endless opinions, the headlines that twist her words and assign motives she never had. But she's still here, not playing the victim, not asking for sympathy, just doing the work. That's the Caitlin Clark we saw in this interview. Not the viral sensation, not the controversial rookie, the athlete, the professional, the future of the game. So the next time someone tries to tell you she's overhyped, point them here. Because hype fades, skill evolves, and Caitlin Clark is evolving fast. Are you seeing a shift? Is this the season where she silences the noise and changes the conversation for good? Or are the expectations still too much, too fast? Hit the comments with your take, and make sure you're subscribed. We've got more breakdowns, more drama, and more untold stories coming your way. And trust this saga, it's just getting started.